Yeah.
I don't think anyone expected a change out on the Smurf Turf, but here we are. Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, breaking down the head coaching change at Boise State, the Broncos out of the Mountain West, who parted ways with Bryan Harsin. I say parted ways, it really wasn't that. Bryan Harsin jumped ship and went to Auburn. I think a move that surprised a lot of people. I don't think many people thought that Bryan Harsin would leave Boise State, where he has had a fantastic run, to take on the challenges and the very fickle fan bases down in the SEC, down on the plains. So Bryan Harsin leaves Boise State after 7 years with the program, 7 years with the Broncos in the Mountain West, went 69-19 with Boise State, 45-8 within the Mountain West Conference. Unreal numbers. Went 3-2 in bowl games, won 3 Mountain West Conference titles, won a New Year's Six bowl game, the Fiesta Bowl over Arizona in his first year there. He continued the success and continued the legacy that Chris Petersen left behind. When Chris Petersen left Boise State and took on a new challenge at Washington, Harsin came in from Arkansas State to Boise State and immediately picked up where Petersen left off. So he did a fantastic job. He was certainly well deserving of that opportunity at Auburn in the SEC. And of course, we do wish him all the best down there. But now we've got a change for Boise State. You know, they haven't dealt with many head coaching changes over the last, I'd say, 2 decades or so. They had Chris Petersen forever, and he made them a national power. And then Harsin comes in. He's there for 7 years. Almost a decade. They haven't dealt with many changes. Boise State is a place where you can go and you can stay. And we're hoping that's going to be the case for their new head man and Andy Avalos. Andy played linebacker at Boise State from 2001 to 2004. And right there, that automatically made me like this hire. Because if you've been following us throughout this coaching change series, we've talked about how important it is to try to bring someone in that understands your culture, that understands your program. Whether that's a former player, whether that's a guy who coached with you for a little bit, went and took a better opportunity, and now is coming back to your program, whether he just grew up in the area, whatever it is, a fan even, that grew up a Boise State fan and never got his chance. There's plenty of guys out there like that. Bringing someone in that understands your football program, what it takes to win there, understands the region, has that personal connection to the school, that does a lot for a team. People say it doesn't, but it does. I promise you that. Because they care about that school, care about that program that much more than a guy who's there just like, hey, it's a better opportunity, I'm getting more money, let's try to win. There's a complete difference there. And Andy Avalos has that. He played for the Broncos, again, linebacker from 2001 to 2004. On top of that, he was on Boise State's staff from 2012 to 2018. So he played there, left, bounced around for a little bit, landed a job with Chris Petersen. Bryan Harsin retained him, and Avalos was the defensive coordinator for the Broncos from 2016 to 2018. So 3 years he was the DC up in Boise. He then left Boise State, went off to Oregon, where he was their defensive coordinator from 2019 to 2020. And then, of course, came now to become the head coach of the Broncos. You look at the most recent body of work for Andy Avalos, and we're going to look at what he did at Oregon. Look at what he did in 1 year. Now, let's talk about that. 2019, Oregon's defensive ranks, their total defensive rank went from 49 in 2018, which isn't all that bad. You're still in the upper half of college football. All the FBS schools, upper half, at 49th in 2018 to 9th in 2019. Jumped 40 spots in 1 year thanks to Andy Avalos. He also played a major role in landing Kayvon Thibodeau, who has been a force for the Ducks in the Pac-12, who, and at the time, was the number 2 overall recruit in the nation. Andy Avalos helped get him to Eugene, helped get him to the Ducks, and as we've seen, he's been absolutely ridiculous, absolutely a freak of nature, and one day will have a very successful tenure in the NFL. In 2020, Oregon's defense took a little bit of a step back. We didn't think it would. It did. They allowed 28.3 points per game. They allowed over 400 yards per game. But I think, guys, when you look at the collective body of work with what he did in 2019, with what he did over his career at Boise State, you can't hold 2020 against him. Everybody's due for a bad year, and let's keep in mind, this was a Pac-12 season, again, marred by COVID, as everybody was, and a Pac-12 season that was still extremely, extremely short. Oregon played, 4 or 5 games, and still won the Pac-12 championship and made the Fiesta Bowl where they fell to Iowa State. So, at the end of the day, he saved one of his best defensive performances for last, and that was the win over USC in the Pac-12 championship game. Don't hold what happened in 2020 against Avalos here. Not holding that against him at all. You look at Boise State and what they have going into 2021. He inherits a very solid team. Not going to have too many quarterback questions. Got plenty of quarterback talent and depth there. So that's obviously number one. Avalos clearly is a defensive-minded coach. He's been a DC. He played defense, but the quarterback is arguably the most important position out there on the field. And every coach every year is, who's going to be your quarterback? Who's going to be your quarterback? We don't know exactly who it's going to be for Boise, but we do know that whoever it is going to have experience. Avalos has options, and that's huge for a first-time coach at a program, but also a first-time head coach, period. So that's one thing. He inherits a solid team across the board, enough for Boise will still contend for a Mountain West title in his first year. You look at the schedule, the open at Central Florida right off the bat, we're going to get a fantastic matchup between two great Group of 5 programs, both dealing with brand new head coaches. Boise State and Avalos going to Orlando to take on Central Florida. UCF, for my guys out there, UCF and Gus Malzahn. That is who we're going to get to see. And it has an opportunity to be a fantastic shootout, but it's really Gus Malzahn's great offensive mind versus Avalos' brilliant defensive mind. Which one's going to give? So that right there is already a marquee matchup in week 1. They get to host Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State is traveling to the Smurf Turf. It's going to be a fun one. Not every day you get to host a Power 5 opponent on your turf if you are, in fact, a Group of 5 school. So Oklahoma State coming to Boise. They travel to BYU, and they do host Air Force. So right there, I would say their toughest test in the Mountain West Conference, Air Force, comes to Boise. Comes to the Smurf Turf. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. They might not beat Central Florida. They could lose to Central Florida, Oklahoma State, and BYU for that matter. 3 losses. None of those are within the conference, so it doesn't hurt Boise State's chances in terms of winning a Mountain West title in Avalos' first year. That's not ideal, but the Air Force game, to me, is the most important out of all of those, and they get it at home. So what are we going to grade this higher, guys? Again, I talk and I preach about how important it is to try to bring someone in that understands the culture, that has a little bit of a tie, some sort of tie to your school. What is this grade for Andy Avalos, the new head coach at Boise State? Giving it a B. A B higher. No B plus, no B minus, just a solid B, guys. And, some could argue that this could be bumped up into the A category. And I wouldn't necessarily fight you too much on that. But I give it a B here, guys, because of the lack thereof of head coaching experience. He's still a relatively young coach. Does not have any prior head coaching experience. But what I do like about him is the fact that he's got a great defensive mind. Boise State in the past has always had a great offense. Their defense haven't been lackluster, but if you can continue the offensive success, pair it with an elite defense, this team has enough talent year in and year out to not just continue to be a contender in the Mountain West, but to start continuing for those New Year's Six bowl spots too, which have been lately dominated by a team out of the American Athletic. So they have a chance to do that. But I love that. I love the fact that he has been a successful DC at a Group of 5 school like Boise, but also show that he can do it against elite opponents, tougher opponents in a Power 5 conference at Oregon, where he did that for 2 years. So both of those experiences are very, very important. The playing experience is very, very important. And I think this was an excellent hire by the Boise State administration. Again, a process that they really have not had to go through very much over the last 20 years or so. But I think they landed on the right man here with Andy Avalos. I'm really excited to see how this pans out for the Broncos up in Boise, and there is no doubt in my mind that right off the bat in 2021, Boise's not looking to rebuild. They are going to continue to contend, and they will continue to contend for Mountain West titles and continue to have their name in the mix for those New Year's Six bowl games. And with the schedule that we just mentioned, they have enough resume-boosting wins there that if they win them, they will be a New Year's Six bowl contender in 2021. But there's no doubt in my mind they will continue to do that year in and year out under Avalos' leadership. So watch out for the Broncos. Just because they're changing head coaches, it doesn't mean they're going anywhere. They will still be a threat, both in the Mountain West and on the national stage. So guys, thank you so much for watching us here at The Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos. Also, make sure to check out everything down in the description below. We've got so much exclusive content there for you guys to help you get through this offseason. I promise you do not want to miss out on it, so go give it a look. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on The Gridiron Expert.